All right, let's take you to KwaZulu-Natal, where SABC News reporter Taliesha Naidoo is standing by with the latest on the snow in the province, as the melting snow is raising concerns about the rising water levels in downstream communities. Good evening to you, Taliesha, and thank you so much for your time. Perhaps we get a sense of just how much, the melting snow has been of concern as far as the water levels are, as you know, in some of these communities that would have been impacted.
Yes, thank you, Bongiwe, and good afternoon to our viewers. So it is quite a concern, especially for disaster management teams. What we have done today is travel along the route of the R617, and that's from Kokstad all the way to Swartberg, Underberg, Southern Drakensberg, and Mphendle. Now, according to the KZN Department of Transport and Human Settlements, the areas that are of the greatest concern for them, and they say has been most severely impacted, have been Mphendle and Kokstad. So those are the areas that are lying quite low when it comes to that mountainous region of the KZN Midlands. What has happened is over the three-day period of that combination of rainfall, snowfall, and those icy temperatures, we've seen today with the South African Weather Service issuing a yellow level 2 warning for the province that the temperatures started to improve slightly. The rain, however, had persisted, but that actually meant that the ice and the snow had started to melt on those mountains and come all the way downstream onto those low-lying areas. Once that ice melts, it then goes into the river streams and then starts to pose as a danger for those communities in the low-lying areas, as it could cause also localized flooding given the persistent rainfall that we have been experiencing in the province. So that was one of the greatest concerns for a disaster management team. Speaking to the KZN Department of Transport and Human Settlements, they said that areas such as Mphendle and Kokstad, there were homes there that were completely blanketed in snow. And once that snow started to melt, it started dripping through the homes and then causing flooding within those homes, damaging a lot of the things that people had owned, their property as well. But then many people also in areas like Mphendle and Kokstad had lost, connection to network services. They also were cut off from electricity because of the rain. So they were really battling various conditions due to the severe weather conditions we were experiencing. And that's not to mention the conditions of the roads, which proved to be quite hazardous because of the persistent rain. It became very wet, and because of the black snow that was often falling at certain parts of the route on the R56 as well, that became a hazard, then allowing for the road traffic inspector to throw brine into the road just so that it could be safer. Many of the routes were closed yesterday, but then since yesterday afternoon reopened, and all of the routes now along KwaZulu-Natal have been deemed safe to travel on. But the greatest concern does remain with the communities, most of them being disadvantaged communities, people living in informal settlements that will really struggle now with the weather conditions, icy temperatures, temperatures of below 3 degrees in many of those areas as well.
And Taliesha, when it comes then to, the communities themselves that you would have also interacted with, perhaps you speak to us about some of the impact that this has had, because you think about in one aspect, for example, you'll have people who are snow chasers excited to see the snow and taking pictures, but in other communities it's different.
Yeah, it was definitely chalk and cheese comparison, because those snow chasers were so excited, many of them to experience snow for the very first time, many of them turning it into a family adventure, stopping by and taking pictures. But it was a different story for those living in those low-lying areas. We managed to go into some of those communities, especially in Kokstad and communities like Pongiwe, where we spoke to some of the residents, many of them saying that because they were cut off from electricity, especially during these freezing conditions, it was very difficult for them to actually survive. Some of them had to resort to burning fires outside and then going outside in those freezing conditions, or they had to go out and buy paraffin, which was a financial cost or financial burden for them because they didn't have money for that. These are people, living in these disadvantaged communities and didn't have enough funds to do all of that. A lot of the children were not able to go to school. And so because they were at home, their parents had to see see to them or, look after the family. And just, it became quite heavy on these families because they were cold. They couldn't make warm food. It became a struggle for them in their households. And then we also spoke to local businesses in the area. We're looking at businesses that were street vendors selling food on the corners of roads, and they were unable in the past 3 days to go out and sell food, and they're living day to day. So they say that that money that they get every day helps them buy their bread, their milk, and see to their family, and they were unable to do that for 3 whole days, and it had a massive impact on them and their livelihoods. Also, taxi drivers and operators in the area, because children were not going to school and people were not going to work, they were not able to operate their vehicles in that area. So that posed a difficulty for them and their income as well.
All right, Taliesha, thank you so much for that update. They appreciated Taliesha Naidoo, our reporter, bringing us the very latest on the snow and the adverse weather conditions in KwaZulu-Natal.